Have you ever wondered why people cheer for leaders they know are corrupt? Why crowds scream support for someone who openly lies, manipulates, even steals, while demanding integrity from others? This isn't just political confusion. It's a psychological red flag, a warning flare from deep inside the human condition. Because the truth is, when someone powerful defies the rules and we still clap, that says more about us than it ever says about them. Take Najib Razak, former Malaysian Prime Minister, allegedly stole over $4.5 billion. And what did some supporters call him? A patriot. They didn't deny the corruption. They reframed it as necessary, as bold, as the kind of move a real leader makes. Sound familiar? In Italy, crowds once chanted Mussolini's name in the streets, long after he dismantled democracy. And today, millions back leaders who wear corruption like a badge of honor. This isn't ancient history. It's happening right now in boardrooms, parliaments, cults, and Twitter threads. Why? Today we're diving into the dark psychology of corrupt leadership and why we follow it. Nietzsche saw it coming over a century ago, and what he uncovered isn't just philosophy, it's raw psychology. It explains everything from toxic bosses to political cults. From the way we obsess over billionaires to why whistleblowers get crucified while con artists become icons. So ask yourself, have you ever admired someone who crossed the line and felt a jolt of respect instead of disgust? Nietzsche called it the will to power. Not power over others, but power over life itself. The need to master chaos, to impose order, to not just survive, but dominate. We don't crave happiness, we crave control. And when we feel powerless, when our jobs vanish, systems collapse, or truth gets slippery, we grab onto anything, anyone that promises control, even if it's a lie. At political rallies, people chant names of leaders they know are flawed, not because they're blind, because they're starving for certainty in a world that feels unhinged. Psychologist Jennifer Whitson ran a study in 2008 that revealed this exact mechanism. When people felt a lack of control, they became 40% more likely to believe in fake patterns and conspiracy theories. In other words, when the world stops making sense, we invent villains, we invent heroes, and we'll follow anyone who pretends to have the map. So when someone steps up and says, I alone can fix it, even if they're corrupt, even if they lie, they don't repel us. They relieve us, and we let them in. Nietzsche saw another piece of this puzzle: master-enslaved morality. Two deep-rooted psychological frameworks that fight beneath every society and every individual. Master morality values power, dominance, strength. It says, good is whatever makes me stronger. Bad is whatever makes me weak. Slave morality values humility, empathy, equality. It says, good is kindness. Evil is domination. Today we say we follow the second. We vote for fairness. We praise compassion. But on weekends, we binge watch shows where CEOs crush people, mob bosses climb ladders, and corrupt geniuses get away with everything. We're obsessed with unapologetic power, even if we never admit it. In 2019, researchers asked people to rate leaders. The same participants who claimed to value equality ranked dominant, aggressive personalities as more charismatic and effective, not despite their power moves, because of them. Ask yourself, when someone breaks the rules and wins, do you feel outrage or a quiet thrill? Nietzsche would say, that's your master morality flaring up, and it runs deeper than you think. But it's not just about power, it's also about pain. Nietzsche's most haunting insight was about ressentiment, not just resentment, but a slow-burning rage born from powerlessness. When people feel crushed, ignored, mocked, they don't just want justice, they want vengeance. They want someone to suffer, someone to pay. In towns gutted by job loss, factory closures, and rising costs, communities often don't rally behind the most helpful leader. They rally behind the one who promises to strike back, even if that leader is corrupt, even if their policies hurt the very people cheering for them. It's not miscalculation, it's psychological revenge. Because when life keeps kicking you down, sometimes destruction feels like freedom. Catherine Kramer studied rural voters and found they often supported policies that hurt them, just to spite the elites they blamed. It wasn't about fixing the system, it was about hurting the right people. And here's the terrifying part. It worked. They felt seen, heard, vindicated. We don't just want change, we want a reckoning. So when a leader shows up, oozing confidence, talking tough, breaking rules, and saying what no one else dares, they become a weapon for our pain, a symbol of finally fighting back. Nietzsche said, "Freedom is the will to be responsible for oneself." But most of us don't want that. Not really, because real freedom, real responsibility, it's exhausting. It means making your own rules, taking the fall when you screw up, carrying the weight of your choices. That's terrifying. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche describes three transformations of the human spirit. First, we're camels, loaded down by the expectations of others. Then we become lions, rebelling against those burdens. But the final form? The child, the one who creates new values from nothing. Most of us never make it past the camel because it's safer, it's easier to obey than to build. Psychologist Erich Fromm nailed it in Escape from Freedom. He said people flee from freedom because they fear the anxiety of decision-making. So when a leader says, "I'll decide for you," we don't just listen, we sigh with relief. Think about it. When was the last time you faced an impossible decision and secretly wished someone would just tell you what to do? That's how authoritarian figures seduce us. They don't just promise answers, they promise relief. And in times of chaos, that relief is intoxicating. Nietzsche understood another ugly truth about us: the herd instinct. We want to belong more than we want to be right. We evolved in tight-knit tribes where isolation meant death. So today we still cling to the group, even when the group is wrong. This is why whistleblowers get punished, even when they tell the truth. When Sharon Watkins warned Enron's CEO about fraud, she didn't get a medal. She got sidelined because she threatened the group's illusion of safety. Corrupt leaders know this instinct. They manipulate it. They turn criticism of themselves into an attack on us. And suddenly, to question the leader is to betray the tribe. That's how people end up defending what they know is wrong. Not because they believe in the lie, but because the cost of stepping away is too high. Have you ever stayed silent just to keep the peace? Nietzsche said, "The surest way to corrupt a youth is to teach him to value conformity over difference." And yet, that's how most of us live. Even when the truth is obvious, the pull of the herd is stronger than the voice in our head. God is dead. Nietzsche didn't mean it as an atheist slogan. He meant it as a diagnosis, a crisis. For centuries, humanity leaned on divine authority to answer the hardest questions: good, evil, right, wrong, meaning, purpose. But once that authority fades, those questions don't go away. They come rushing back, loud, unresolved. So what do? We replace God with other idols, leaders, celebrities, CEOs, gurus. We don't just admire them, we worship them. She's playing 4D chess. He sees around corners. They're 10 steps ahead. These aren't rational evaluations. They're myth-building. And corrupt leaders? They know exactly how to use that hunger for meaning. They don't just say, "Follow me." They say, "I am the mission. I am the solution." Their flaws get rebranded as quirks. Their excesses become symbols of greatness. They turn corruption into character. Vladimir Putin is a perfect case. Accused of staggering wealth hoarding, repression, and institutional rot, yet many see him as the embodiment of Russian strength. His image isn't weakened by scandal, it's reinforced by it, because he's not judged by ordinary rules. He transcends them. Psychologist Dan McAdams studied how supporters of extreme leaders talk about them. He found that many don't just support the leader, they merge their identity with the leader's narrative. So if the leader falls, their own self-image shatters too. That's not loyalty. That's psychological fusion. Have you ever defended a public figure's flaws just because they're your person? The need for heroes is natural, but it's also a weakness, one that manipulative leaders exploit with surgical precision. Nietzsche wasn't against leadership. He just believed most people are too quick to kneel before it. Instead of becoming who we are, we absorb the values of whoever shouts loudest. That's why he created two archetypes, the Übermensch and the last man. The Übermensch, often mistranslated as Superman, isn't about muscles or ego, it's about courage. The Übermensch creates values, doesn't borrow them, faces hardship without flinching, makes meaning out of the meaningless. The last man, he wants comfort, safety, security. He avoids pain, avoids risk, avoids becoming. He's not evil, just empty. Nietzsche's description is brutal. They have left the regions where it was hard to live. One still works, for work is a pastime. One still loves one's neighbor and rubs against him, for one needs warmth. That's us, today, right now. It's why people back leaders who shield them from discomfort, who say, you don't have to change. I'll fix everything. I'll take the hits. Just stay comfortable. Look at FIFA, a global organization racked with scandal, bribery, and fraud. Yet millions of fans kept cheering. Why? Because FIFA gave them what they wanted. Big games, thrilling tournaments, national pride. The show went on. And that was enough. So when people say they don't care about politics, what they often mean is they've chosen comfort over complexity, safety over responsibility. Now picture two political speeches. One says, we're facing tough problems and it's going to require sacrifice from all of us. The other says, this is simple. I alone can fix it and it won't cost you a thing. Which one gets the applause? You already know. When times get hard, people don't look for truth. They look for relief, and corrupt leaders specialize in relief. But not everyone falls for it. Some places have built psychological immune systems. Post-apartheid South Africa, for example. After generations of brutality, the conditions were ripe for vengeance. But Nelson Mandela took a different path. He faced the pain, acknowledged the rage, and redirected it. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission didn't erase suffering, it transformed it. That's not just politics, that's psychological alchemy. Iceland gives us another example. When the 2008 financial crash hit, citizens didn't shrug. They marched, banged pots and pans outside Parliament. They jailed bankers, rewrote the Constitution, reclaimed power, together. This wasn't blind rebellion. It was collective responsibility. Liberian women in Jarpolo County did the same. After years of corruption, they didn't wait for help. They formed cross-tribal councils to hold leaders accountable. They built trust across enemy lines, created systems that made it harder for corruption to take root. These are the modern-day Übermenschen, not because they're flawless, but because they create rather than conform. So ask yourself, when you support a leader, is it because of what they offer or what they let you avoid? Is it empowerment or escape? Because Nietzsche didn't just critique humanity. He issued a challenge. Become who you are. Not who you're told to be, not what your group demands, but the person willing to look reality in the face and still choose to build. He wasn't naive. He knew we all carry resentment, fear, herd instincts, the craving for comfort, the hunger for control. But he believed we could face those forces, integrate them, and then transcend them. To do that, we must first be honest. Why do we really follow the people we follow? Because they help us, or because they hurt our enemies, because they challenge us, or because they make us feel safe, because they speak truth, or because they silence complexity. If you feel uncomfortable right now, good. That's the beginning of awareness. Nietzsche once said, "Man is something that shall be overcome." And maybe, just maybe, the first step in that overcoming is seeing our own role in the leaders we elevate. We don't just choose them, we create them, and we defend them when they defend our illusions. If this hits something inside you, don't let it fade. Share it. Start a conversation with someone who doesn't think like you. Ask them why they follow who they follow. Because if we can learn to recognize the psychological traps, the craving for heroes, the need for simplicity, the pull of the tribe, maybe we can start choosing leaders who don't just win, but deserve to. Let's not wait for the next scandal to wake up. Let's choose to become more conscious now, more courageous, more deliberate, because the most dangerous power any leader can hold is the power to go unquestioned, and that's a power we give them. Until next time, choose awareness over comfort, choose responsibility over relief, choose to become who you are,